Really very special for teens in high school to hear firsthand what it's like in college. They can't get the same information anywhere else. So you guys are in the front. These days it's called the front line. So it's really special that you're here to share of your experiences and everything. What do you wish you knew going to college that you know now, and that if you knew before, it would have made a world of difference?
So my name's Justin. I go to Rivier University. It's a small private school in New Hampshire. I play volleyball there. I don't know if I said I'm a freshman, but just finished my freshman year. And one piece of advice that I wish I knew senior year is that me personally going to a small school, I have a lot of time on my hands, but I'm also an athlete. So mixing in my athletic and school life, just take all the time that you have and just don't procrastinate. Just get on to your assignments and don't wait till last minute.
Hi, I'm Allison and I just finished my sophomore year at Binghamton. One thing that I wish I knew was that it's okay to go into college and not know exactly what you want to do. Cause for me, Binghamton had offered a lot of different types of classes and opportunities that I didn't know about before, and exploring them helped me realize my potential at Binghamton and what exactly I wanted to do.
I'm Zach. I also go to Binghamton. I just finished my freshman year, and probably the best piece of advice I probably wouldn't like to have known was that it goes by fast. I felt like it just went really fast. All of a sudden, I finished the second semester, and that's it. It's over.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I just finished my freshman year at Binghamton, and a piece of advice I wish I knew is that it's really beneficial to get involved with organizations and clubs on campus, because it helps you meet like-minded people to just have more people similar to yourself.
I'm Gabby. I go to Rochester Institute of Technology. I just finished my first year, and one thing that I wish I knew was that not everything you do in high school doesn't matter that much. There's bigger things coming for you, and college is a lot better.
My name is Remy. I go to the University of Florida, and I just finished my freshman year. One thing that I wish I knew was that I actually knew my studying techniques when I was in high school, because now that I'm in college, I'm in the library for hours on end, which I never knew how to do when I was in high school. So it taught me really how to transfer over with the transition.
Hi, I'm Jake. I'm in my second year. Well, I'm shifted over a little bit, so I'm still in my second year as a sophomore. I'd offer the same piece of advice would be to actually know how you learn, because the way and the study habits that you have in high school may not transfer to college whatsoever. I mean, I know for myself, when I was in high school, I didn't even have to study, and I just did really well. The same thing's not going to happen in college. It could be a complete rude awakening where you then realize that you don't know how to study whatsoever, and you kind of have to learn from scratch, which is actually completely okay. You're going to have to learn correct study habits and really how you focus best. Otherwise, you're gonna do really bad. So learn a lesson that way.
I'm Emma, and I go to I just finished my freshman year at Michigan, and one thing I wish I knew senior year was that it's really easy to make a big school feel smaller, because it was definitely overwhelming at first, but there's a lot of organizations and clubs and joining Greek life, just you meet more people, and the big school just feels smaller, which is nice.
I'm Justin. I just finished my sophomore year at Wisconsin. The biggest thing for me was time management. Going to a big school, there's so many things I'd rather do than studying, but it's important to block off time and know when I'm going to study.
Hi, my name is Mason. I just finished my second year at Duke. My piece of advice would be just say yes if someone asks if you want to go do something fun. Get everything done. Obviously, that should be your motivation to get everything done, but take every opportunity you have at school. You'll have more fun.
My name's Jesse. Just finished my sophomore year at Columbia. I'm on the soccer team there. One piece of advice that I would definitely give is, when you first get to school and maybe at some point you're not necessarily enjoying it as much as you may have thought you were going to at the beginning. I would say, that may be discouraging at first, but, keep sticking it out. My first couple months At Columbia, I was pretty miserable, but you know, you get to know people as you go along, and as you get used to the new environment, you know, it's definitely a fun place to be, especially around my teammates for sure.
I'm Sam. Just finished my second year at Vanderbilt, and I would probably say one piece of advice would be get to know older people who are like doing similar stuff as you, like upperclassmen, because like they'll just give you great advice because they've been through the process of like what you're doing, so they'll give you good piece of advice.
I'm Sloan Birnbaum, and I'm a junior at Salsa High School. And I had a question specifically. I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, but you could go to Duke, right?
Mason, yeah.
Yeah, Mason. Okay. So how do you feel about how the college dealt with the issue when those kids put up the Palestinian flag and?
I mean, I think it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you have to take into account that you're pretty much going to see it anywhere you go, and that it's, you know, it's unfortunate if it makes you uncomfortable and sad to see that. But one thing about Duke is that they've been really good about anything that even starts to, you know, tiptoe the line to anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic. They'll like squash it right away. We had a couple protests in the town of Durham, which is right outside of Duke. They tried to get onto campus and the cops just stopped them right away. There was anti-Semitic graffiti that was put up on a wall. It was covered the next day. The president of the school sent an email to everyone saying it's unacceptable. We covered it up. They did a good job to show that there's no place for hate, especially against Jews on campus. And we've also had a great amount of Jewish pride on campus that's made, you know, people who aren't too fond of us pretty uncomfortable to even show their face with the mask on.
So I guess we're going right ahead into one of the questions that was asked about October 7th.
So it happened like on Vandy, like it was like pretty early on, like the protest started happening, but it mostly started happening like late December. Like they started putting up signs like right outside one of the dining halls, the pro-Palestinian kids saying like blood is on your hands, like Zionists have to go, like stuff like that. But it wasn't that bad until like protests started happening. And I feel like I like to think differently of some people now, just because like I think something you have to do before going to school is like do your research about everything, especially if you're like Jewish and like about Israel. You should know like about the wars that happened before and like what led up to everything. And like I wasn't even able to have like dialogue with anyone. I'm sure like that was the same thing for most people, but like they wouldn't talk to you, and like that says a lot. Like know your stuff, and like they can't really argue back with you.
So, you know, obviously everything kind of started kicking off in the fall semester. October 7th was pretty unfortunate, and when that first happened, there were a bunch of protests on campus. You know, typical, you see protests at a bunch of places. Wasn't anything too crazy. It kind of died down over the course of the next couple months, and then in early April, maybe late March, our university president went to testify at Congress. You know, you saw like the UPenn president and the Harvard president, they had to go to Congress as well, and they ended up resigning. And I think at the same time that was happening, I think, you know, Iran like attacked Israel. Like it was like the same kind of time frame, and you know that kind of sparked off even more protests, and that's when it started to get really serious. They started an encampment on the lawns in front of the main library. Probably at all times at least 500 plus kids, you know, staying in tents, cheering, all these crazy things you hear. And you know, it got to a point where they brought in the New York Police Department, arrested a bunch of people. I don't know how many people, but a bunch of people. They got suspended, expelled, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, a couple days after that, there was another encampment that got even bigger, and so there were just more and more people over time, and after a couple weeks, they ended up canceling all in-person classes and making everything online for the rest of the semester. And you know, there's one entrance in and out of campus to keep everyone out. Only students with their Columbia ID could get in, and then even to make it more extreme, kids that had their IDs weren't even able to get in a couple days later. So I had a Columbia ID, wasn't even able to get into campus, which is pretty insane. And then at that point, once everything was made online, you know, finals got pretty much made optional, which I guess was nice. Didn't have to take my finals, but you know, I think at this point everyone's kind of gone from campus, but there's still NYPD presence there. I'm not sure if you saw, they broke into a building on the campus, so there's more arrests when that happened, and so yeah, not ideal, but you know, I think since everyone's gone home now, it's quieted down a bit, but I'm sure it's going to start right back up when we go back in the fall.
Did you experience it the way that it looks on social media, or were you able to avoid it and still be able to get on with your life?
So me personally, you know, like I said, I'm on the soccer team there, so a lot of my days at practice, when our practice facility is off campus, so you know, half of my day is already not really involved with that anyways, and you know, I just do my best to avoid everything, don't really get involved, and just do my thing, hang out with my teammates, just try and make the best out of a bad situation. And you know, me personally, I didn't experience anything that would make me feel unsafe, me personally at least, but the caveat to that is, you know, I wasn't openly, you know, pro-Israel, openly Jewish, stuff like that. So, you know, if you're a different student who was like that, you know, that could be a different story. You know, I've seen kids who unfortunately were subject to some sort of violence, but, you know, overall, it was definitely very bad, but, you know, I wouldn't say like people were genuinely in danger, which I guess was a good thing.
Yeah, so obviously Wisconsin had like the encampment like every other campus did. I saw the videos from Jesse from Columbia, and at that time Wisconsin they had a couple protests, but nothing like the encampments. So when the encampment started, it was definitely like a pretty shocking thing, but I have seen it before just through social media and some of my friends. There was a lot of times the chancellor said, even before this happened, that encampments were illegal and were not allowed to happen on campus. Yet when it did, she allowed it to happen and didn't stop it. Then they finally arrested a couple people after like 5 or so days when they resisted leaving, but they were immediately brought back. They were released from jail and they went right back. In fact, some professors went straight from jail to teach their class and talk to their class about how they were peacefully protesting, and they got arrested for no reason at all. So it's definitely weird to walk around campus. They were set up right in the middle of campus, and it was weird to have to pass that every single day. But on the other side of it, I would say there's a lot more Jewish pride on campus after the fact. My brother was there on October 7th when it was Simchat Torah. We still celebrated like we would any other year, and it motivated me and a lot of my friends to walk around more with the Star of David out. I never felt unsafe. I'm in a Jewish fraternity. I have the letters on my house, and many of my friends in the fraternity that weren't Jewish came out to support us. We gathered on the lawn where they were pretty much every other night to sing and stay together. So although like it was a scary moment, I will say it brought out a lot of Jewish pride in the Wisconsin community.
My dad actually went to Wisconsin, and one of his friend's sons who goes there got an email from his professor saying, like, I will be at the encampment, like, I'm canceling my office hours, like, you can come to ask me questions.
Yeah.
And, like, that just, like, doesn't sit, like, that's just unbelievable that, like, that would even go through someone's mind to send that email to their students.
Yeah, I know that some people canceled class after that, but some people still held their class and talked about it, wrote stuff on the board. But I know Hillel did a good job talking to school and making sure like that doesn't continue in the future.
Obviously after October 7th, but they kind of got worse, like as like through second semester, they would protest like all day, walking outside, and then they started going into buildings and going into lecture halls and like protesting around that. So that wasn't like great because the teachers couldn't like control all of them because there was like a huge crowd. And then we had an encampment also, and it was like in the center of campus, like you kind of had to like walk by it every day just to get to class. and they weren't violent by any means, like, and they only engage with you if you engage with them first. But like it wasn't great to see every day, and they eventually just got shut down in May when like they started to get violent, and then the university, like the first act, they shut that down immediately. But Hillel has been really great, like offering services, and I'm in a Jewish sorority, and they always offered my sorority and a different Jewish sorority like security at the house at all times if like anyone ever felt unsafe. So I've never, and me and my friends have always never felt unsafe, but there's a lot of Jewish people on campus, and we all come together and like support each other.
I don't think this actually happened at Hofstra, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe so. There's not the campus for it, but I could be wrong. I don't know. If it would have happened, they definitely would have heard of it because they have, there's an alert that sends to Hofstra with any of these things. So nothing happened.
So at Florida, the president of the school has actually been amazing and has shut down anything that has been tried to be done. There hasn't been any encampments, but there's protests every week on the corner of the main university street. So it's like the entrance to campus, and there's hundreds of people there holding the signs and all that stuff. But on October 9th, 2 days after the awful events that happened, with the Hillel had a memorial for what had happened, and one of the people who came, their family member, their cousin, was at the festival. So he was there and he was speaking about the events, and there were thousands of people at this. This was the center of campus at one of the main buildings next to the main library. And I'm in a Jewish sorority, and it was right after we had a meeting. So everyone from my sorority was there. We all held a candle, and it was a very nice ceremony, very peaceful. There was nothing about it until someone's water bottle dropped, and someone didn't think it was a water bottle. So this peaceful protest that united everyone on campus turned into chaos and people screaming "shooter" and all this stuff. So my phone broke. I had no way to contact my friends. I lost everyone that I knew there. I just kept running. People who got back to their dorms, their TAs were telling them there's a shooter, they need to stay inside. Meanwhile, everyone went to their worst thoughts that could have happened for that day and just assumed it was a shooter. Meanwhile, this girl fainted and her water bottle dropped, and it led to people breaking their arms, legs, having scrapes all over. And a lot of people were hesitant about going in the first place because of what could have happened. But me, I didn't have any way to contact anyone. I didn't know at this time, we get the university alerts. I didn't know, at first they said everyone stay put, and then they sent one false alarm, everyone's okay. But if I don't have a phone, I'm just running along campus for 15, 20 minutes, and I see someone hiding in the bushes, so then I freak out. And they are come on, let's go find somewhere safe. So she lets me borrow her phone, I call my parents, and they're oh my gosh, are you, I'm no words are coming out of my mouth. And then finally, my friends came and picked me up, and I made the worker walk me out because I was so shaken up. And then at my sorority, police, I don't live in the house, but police officers were staying the night because everyone around campus was so uneasy about the events that have happened. So nothing bad occurred, but that feeling that we all felt was something that we won't forget because we thought something was seriously not okay. But there has been a lot of things that Hillel's done. I don't know if you've seen, but they hosted the biggest Seder for Passover in the North America, which was something to be proud of. They did it in the basketball stadium, and basically the community is coming together as one, even though there's protests every day. The police came outside the library one day because there was a huge protest, and my friends were scared, all the other campuses, and that's going on right in front of you. And the police can't do anything because I don't know the correct terminology for it, but they not rent out the area, but they sign something so for them to have this. And it got to a point where it was the first time that they arrested people on campus. But I feel safe just after that one vigil that we had. I was very hesitant to leave my dorm for a little, but yeah.
RIT's been pretty quiet. There was one protest
fall semester. The city of Rochester is pretty vocal about having protests and rallies and stuff. Lucky for me, RIT is not actually in Rochester, so it hasn't been too bad. Although sometimes it feels like a pot boiling over. Like it's about something is going to happen. There's stickers on campus and stuff like that. I mean, but it's been decently quiet. I mean, not in my program, but in other programs in the College of Art and Design, people have tried making like political statements with their art. I remember there was one in fall semester that I think I left critique for because it was just, it was a lot. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by a group of good people. In my sorority, it's not a majority of Jewish people, but I'm lucky enough to be social chair, so I've been able to plan events with the Jewish fraternities and stuff like that. And I don't know, Hillel's been great, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty quiet.
I would say in general, Binghamton has a very heavy Jewish population. Even within that, a lot of students take a gap year, like a ton of students take a gap year in Israel before attending their freshman year. So definitely on October 7th, a lot of people had very strong feelings right away, just because they have such a connection to Israel. So many more, even growing up in a Jewish town, it's really crazy just going to Binghamton, even more, how many more people are just so connected to Israel and just Judaism in general. So I will say after that, there was a lot of Jewish pride. Students took it upon themselves to create song circles outside of a dorm and community, which is really peaceful and nice and stuff like that. There definitely was pro-Palestinian stuff, but it wasn't really right after October 7th. I would say that right after it was mostly Jewish pride. The president came to speak at Shabbat dinner, and there was a lot more unity on campus. But since then, I will say there was a lot more pro-Palestinian legislation and stuff that took place, which I think you could speak more on.
Yeah. Things been mostly quiet. Right after October 7th, the university itself was very openly pro-Israel, which was good. They lit up the library tower with Israeli colors during our vigil, which was awesome. Like you said, the president spoke at Chabad, which was very supportive. There's been protests. There was an encampment. I think it was a lot easier to just ignore it because they were never very severe. It never got violent. Most people just found it easier to ignore it, just go on about their day, not giving the attention that they wanted. And I got disassembled pretty quickly. I think it was 5 days the encampment was taken down. But probably the most significant thing was the BDS campaign was passed on Binghamton campus. Now it was passed by the student association, so the university itself didn't get affected by it, but the student association made the demands of the school. And once again, they were ridiculous demands that just were completely they were outrageous. The school didn't comply to any of them. It was kind of just more of news that BDS was passed than any actual effect on campus. It definitely is it's definitely easy to become intimidated by what's going on if you but based on the amount of things that do happen. But at the end of the day, a lot of the things that happened were not as severe as they may have seemed, which was good. And the Chabad and Hillel both operated as usual. It didn't. The Jewish unity was definitely very strong in Binghamton.
Yeah, I agree. I think, not to be too repetitive, but honestly, I think the encampment was the biggest thing that we dealt with. But the best thing to do was to just ignore it. And then within 5 days, it was gone. And then the next day was Holocaust Remembrance Day, and the school put up flags exactly where the encampment was. Just a bunch of Israeli flags, which we all thought was so nice after walking to class every day and seeing these ridiculous people just sitting on the quad. But other than that, the three of us were in Jewish sororities and frats, and we have strong ties to Chabad, which was really nice. And overall, it was just about teaching our non-Jewish friends about what's going on to make sure everyone's staying informed. And it was nice how everyone kind of stood by our sides as everything was going on.
So for me, it's a little bit of a different point of view than most people that go to college, because I go to a private Catholic school, and I'm probably the only Jewish kid. Not probably only, but I know 2 Jewish kids that are there, and So it's, for a lot of people that can be intimidating, being an only Jewish, or being a minority in a school basically. And for me, I'd say it's the complete opposite, because as I said before, it's a small school, but you also get that small school like vibe, like all these people are just like in the same shoes as you, and like at the end of the day, I show my Jewish pride. All my friends know that I'm Jewish, and at the end of the day, like I try to like inform them and just try to like show them the side that they don't know, you know what I mean? And I'd say in school, like the classes, they kept it pretty neutral. Like there was no protests or anything like that. But in class, like first semester, I take a world religion class that's mandatory, and like in class, we're just learning about all these other different religion values. And I felt like that was definitely good to just show like everyone's different values, and how like at the end of the day, like they just want peace and like to make well-rounded people. And I feel like that was definitely something that was shown just among all like the violence going on.
There's a difference between being prideful and being proud. Proud is more of like, to me, a positive connotation. And someone's like, the thing I think with pride though, because Hofstra has, prideful nouns, at least in like a different understanding, is that pride actually invites attack though, so you can kind of think of it that way. Like you see a lot of people who are very prideful and they boast their ways, but they're very similar words, and then it only invites attack. So there's a difference between being proud of who you are and then being prideful and kind of boasting and putting it out there, because then it's going to come right back at you. At least the energetic understanding, you understand those things. But so there's a difference though, I think, kind of that needs to be remained aware about though. To kind of understand the situations, kind of. I think it helps though. There's a quote that defensiveness invites attack. I do think it's actually fine to show who you are, what you believe in and everything, but the problem is you just don't want to become boastful about it. You show it so much that people are going to end up attacking you. I just think that's a major problem just in the world. You can definitely do some research on it, but it's very evident though. But I do think it is something that most people are just not aware of. But yeah, that's basically what I have to add. But it didn't happen in Hofstra, from what I understand. Yeah, that's what I have to add.
But like when the protest started happening, like it was like in the middle of campus, like right in front of the dining hall where we'd all get lunch, and like I'm like in a fraternity where it's like there's some Jewish kids, there's also like some kids from the south, like it's a southern school, it's like pretty balanced, and like a bunch of my friends, we went there and like they were just all just like sitting in a circle, they're chanting like Intifada or whatever it is, and like from there to see like pretty like hard statements to say, especially like the meeting. It's like the groundwork for anti-Semitism, I feel like. And the rabbi always kept saying like, don't chant anything, don't do anything, because you're just gonna stoop to their level. And you're giving them the time of day, or giving them the attention. Like one of my good friends who's from Israel immigrated to the USA when he was like 5 years old, I think. Like went up and like tried to have a conversation with a girl in my class who was like very smart, like a good student. Like I never she was trying to argue with like us, and we were trying to hear dialogue, because like there's never like going to be any problem or any solution if you don't have dialogue. And I was trying to talk to her like, hey, like what's the protest? Like obviously like you just released the hostages, like nothing will happen. She's like, well yeah, but we're protesting because we want the school to like defund McDonald's, like pass BDS. And we were like, what does like McDonald's have to do with this? And she was like, oh, well they're funding the war. And I was like, what do you mean? Like I'm just like where have you heard that from? And like two protests, like bodyguards who like wear vests, they're really just students. So it's like, oh yeah, this is the time and place, you can't talk. You can't talk to me right now. Like you're not allowed to. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to? Like this is America, I can talk to whoever I want. And she was like, no, you have to leave. And I'm like, okay, like, it's not even worth it. But like so like I walk away, like it's not even worth the time to like talk to these people anymore, because like I like try to show my Jewish star, but like I also like don't want to like get into like anything bad. Like you've seen like Evan in Nashville, Evan in Wisconsin, like the neo-Nazis going around, like just not worth it.
I also want to get back to Rabbi's point about when to be visible and proud of your Judaism and possibly your Zionism, and when to maybe take a step back and assess the situation you're in. I've been wearing my chai since high school, since like I think I got it in like 11th grade, So pre-October 7th, I kept it out after October 7th. I know some people either went one way or the other. One of my first experiences my second year of college was I was out with friends, and two freshmen came up to me and they're like, "You're Jewish," and they just like point at my chest. I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "You're cool wearing that out, and you don't have issues here?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem. Like, it's good to be Jewish. Who cares?" And they were like, "Oh, our parents told us to like not wear our jewelry out," and they're like from Chicago, from New York, Jews. You know, being warned by their parents that the world is out to get them because they're Jewish. Like, you know, that very well could be the case. But you also have to understand that you play a part as a Jew on campus, and as, you know, a potential leader on campus, that if you're wearing your Chai, your Star David, your Hamsa, whatever you're wearing, it can, you know, it can inspire kids to understand that this is a safe place for Jews. I can be who I want to be, and that's it's a very meaningful and important thing to feel like you've had that impact on your campus, even though you might think it's small, it can change a person's entire 4 years.
I think for me, I know my mom called me one day and she was like, she saw the protests that were happening in Rochester, the city, and she called me and she was like, "If you're wearing Star of David, take it off. If you're gonna talk to me about anything that's going on, don't talk to me in English." I was part of an organization, it was like Latin American student, whatever, and she was like, "If you're there, don't like outwardly say that you're Jewish and whatever, because like it's scary. It wasn't happening on my campus, but the city was very vocal about it, and I wasn't like for a while I didn't go to Hillel because I was scared. I wasn't comfortable going. My parents weren't, and then I remember I came home for a break and she was like, "You need to check what's going on like every day in the city to see if it's, you know, safe for you to come back." I think I went home for Passover, and she had me checking like every day. It's the city's pretty bad. The campus is fine, but yeah.
I just want to get back to what Zaire was saying about so many of these people are just so misinformed, and at some point it's not worth it to have a conversation with them. My friends and I, a lot of days, would go and try to talk to some of these people. One of my friends actually got escorted away from the protest because he held a sign that said "terrorism is bad," and they all booed him. And I mean, I'm sure everyone saw, but the biggest thing like that shocked me was the whole Queers for Palestine movement. I just got back from Israel. I was there for 10 days. I went on Birthright with 8 of my friends. There's a bus of 30 of us. I tell anyone here that I was going, and everyone was like making jokes and making sure that I was going to stay safe. I went there, and everyone there, I got to go. It was on Independence Day, was when I landed. They had no school. Kids were running around. Everyone was still prideful of being Jewish. Nobody was scared. Nobody was hiding. I went to the Nova Festival. I got to visit the site. So I was 3 miles away from the border, and everyone was feeling really safe. While I was there near the border, I got a chance to actually go to an Air Force base and talk to some of the people enlisted. 7 IDF soldiers were on the trip. One was my roommate, and I was showing him these videos. I was showing him the Nazi rally that happened in my school. I was showing him like the pictures of these Queers for Palestine and Queers for Divestment. And at some point, he at first he laughed, and then the second time I showed him, he felt bad. He felt bad that these people, the Queers for Palestine, are so misinformed. They hear a trigger word like genocide, they hear a trigger word like apartheid, and they immediately hop on it when they're so uninformed by the issue. I've tried my best. I've been reading, I've been doing my research, I've been talking to people, and even I don't know that much. It's a long history that goes way beyond our time, but a lot of these people are very misinformed, and even if they pretend to have a conversation with you, most of the time they don't know what they're talking about, and it's just not worth it to engage with them.
Kind of like similar. Like, there was this kid like who I was friends with in one of my classes, like, and he was gay, like nothing, like obviously nothing bad with it. And like he like posted something on his story, like saying like today actually, it was like supporting Palestine, like one of like the Instagram like filter things I'm sure you guys have seen. And I'm like, why? I'm just wondering like what makes you support them? And he was like, well, innocent people are being killed. And I'm like, isn't there innocent people being killed on both sides or whatever? I don't know. He was like, well, yeah, but like obviously Israel's to blame. and then I just like left them on red. Like it's just like so like dumb. Like, I just don't.
It's just a trend at some point, and like, at some point it's not worth it to engage. Like, my fraternity, like I said, there's a lot of us that showed up on campus near the encampment to just like sing Jewish songs and pray. We did Havdalah services there, so it was really nice. And we took a picture and posted it. And this was, at this point, over a month ago. And there's still people going to our fraternity Instagram, reposting us, and writing like super long things on their Instagram story about us, saying how we support genocide, how we kill babies, and all this stuff. At some point, we just blocked it out, and it's just not something we want to worry about, and there's just no point to engage.
One more thing, sorry. There's like an anonymous like thing on campus called like Fizz, where you post something. I think at one of our parties, one of my friends who was like, there's like 2 to 3 Israeli kids in my fraternity, and one of them like was holding like an Israeli flag. And it was like October 20th, something like right after. And someone posted on Fizz, it's anonymous. You can't see this. Like, I'm never coming back to blah 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 ever again. These people support genocide. They kill babies. They support apartheid. This is disgusting. Never come back here. I'm like, what? Like, I'm like who are you? Like, I think it's just extremely cowardly for these people to do this, especially hide behind masks. So they don't get like detected on these cameras. It's kind of disgusting. I mean, especially when they don't know anything.
I think that a big takeaway that you can take from here, and all of us talk if you're not in school yet, and even the people who are in college, is for the most part, wherever you go, you're going to see anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and you're going to see a lot of hate and misinformation. And it's to be expected, and you should, recognize that it's not just going to be a fact of life when you're in college, but, the rest of your life you're going to be dealing with it. You're going to be telling your kids about it and teaching them to do what you did in college and growing up. It's something that, you should recognize and understand is if you're walking by, it might be a time to check your surroundings and tuck your necklace in if you need to. But to also understand that if you're going to live with that, you should live with it how you want to, and you should still be proud of your Judaism. You should still be proud of who you are, and you shouldn't really let that affect how your life's trajectory goes.
I wanted to add on one more thing to that. I know in my school, I'm part of the College of Art and Design, which is like super liberal art kids, and I know for a lot of periods of time, I see their Instagram stories and they're posting stuff about like pro-Palestinian whatever, and sometimes it felt like I was kind of surrounded by this group of people that just kind of were preying on my downfall. And I just piece of advice, just have your group of people, have at least one Jewish friend that will understand, and just have your little group of people that you can escape from